Welcome to the It's Your Choice podcast, where we learn how to rewire our brains to live the life we desire. On with the show. Welcome to the It's Your Choice podcast. Today on the show, we have Kendra Jeffers. Thank you very much for joining us, Kendra.
Welcome. It's a delight to be here.
Now, Kendra, you're a psychotherapist and a professional coach. In your opinion, is there such a thing as work-life balance?
Yes, there is actually, I consider instead of it being really like a work-life balance, I prefer work-life integration if possible. And the difference is for me is oftentimes when we think of work-life balance, we think of I go to work and then I end my day at 5 o'clock and then I can start my personal life. Then I have my personal life afterwards. Whereas when we're speaking of work-life integration, that there it lends some type of fluidity. So, for instance, well, I'm working, but because I'm salaried, I have the autonomy to go like, okay, if my kid needs like cupcakes, for whatever like party at their school, I can take time on my lunch break and go over there to take care of that, and then come back, or work a fuller day during the day. And then once my kids go down to bed, then I could, okay, let me catch up on just a few email or messages that I have. So you have that where it's like a ebb and flow of your day. So that's the difference.
And I think that is better and it makes more sense because I think that a lot of times when we think of something that's balanced, it's 50-50. And
Yes,
work life, to me, it's never 50
it's
50. I
never
call it
right.
a work life teeter-totter. As a
Ah,
kid, when we're on the
yes,
teeter-totter, that it's
yes,
sometimes we might be putting 80% of our time into work and we've only got 20% for our personal life because there's a
yes,
project or, whatever's going on. And then other times we've got, maybe 60% is going to work and 40% for life and 70% for life and 30% for work. Like it's never when people say the balance, I often think that people think that it should be like a 50-50. Like I have 8 hours of work, 8 hours of sleep, and then 8 hours of personal time, and there's my day.
yes, yes.
That's just not reality in, I'm going to say, almost anybody's life.
Yes, you're right. And sometimes what happens for some people when somehow if it doesn't meet that 50-50 balance, then they seem to develop some level of guilt or frustration as a result of that. The guilt of, oh my goodness, I missed that meeting at work because my kid was sick. You hear that a lot. Oh my goodness, you're sick today, not today. I got to go do this. And it's like, well, they're a huge part of your life too. And we understand that work is important, but in that case, then that means that that child it takes they're the responsibility at that point. But oftentimes people feel guilty for that or wanting to take off to do some, I call it self-maintenance, to get a pedicure or to get a massage. We accrue leave, but we don't really take it. It's another issue that comes up. Oh, I'll just savor that until my vacation time,
And
right?
how many people don't even take vacation time? And I understand that sometimes
Yes,
finances can be tight and things are tough and everything. But at the same time, it's like, well, I'll just take the payout and I won't take vacation. And then I've known people 5 years never taken vacation time. They have their weekends off. Sometimes they're even working overtime, so they don't even get full weekends every weekend, but they don't take any of that time. And studies have shown that when we do take that time off, you don't even have to go on vacation. You just don't
right.
go to work. You don't answer emails. You don't do anything work related. If you want, you could sit at home, watch TV all day, even though I would recommend doing some fun things that you like to do. But it is important for us mentally and physically to have those breaks from work, and then when we come back, we feel better, we're happier to be there, we're a little bit more energized, we maybe have some new ideas of things for things that are going on, depending upon what type of work we do.
Yes, I remember when I used to work in education, and I would, because there was such high demands of the volume of work. Um, I remember taking time off so that I could catch up. So that wasn't useful
That
either.
doesn't
It was like, let me take off so I have to write these evaluations, for a week instead of it being actually taking off time off to unplug and do like you just described. No, I would take time off. So there's that category of people who do that, and I learned that no, that's not healthy either.
No, no, it's really not good. What are your thoughts on the 4 and there's been different countries that have kind of played with it and tested it of the 4-day work week. And those hours might be longer. So sometimes people are like, "Oh, but I need all the hours I have." But instead of doing an 8-hour day, perhaps you do a 10-hour day, 4 days a week. Some still stick with the 8-hour, 4 days a week instead of 5. What do you think about that?
I think it depends on the job, but I will say that I actually did work a shift like that when I was in college. When I worked at a hotel, I used to be a night auditor, people who do the accounting piece of it, flip the day in the system and all of that, settle the bank receipts and all of that stuff. So we had a 4-day work week. So go in, work the 10 hours because oftentimes, most people don't do a hard stop at 8 hours. They
Hmm,
usually linger, or either they come in earlier. And so
right.
it worked for us at the night art team because we knew, okay, I'm going in, I'm doing my 10 hours, and then I'm doing this 4 days. And then I have the way that my supervisor at the time, we would work the 4 days and then we had like the 3 days, 3 consecutive days off. And then sometimes what he would do is, like, if you ended your week with 3 days off, he would start you at the beginning of the week with 3 days off, and then you would end with four. So you would have 6 consecutive days off, as he would rotate it. There were four of us. So he would rotate it, so everybody got a chance to have 6 consecutive days off. But then the problem started when people started forgetting how to do the audit because they had so many days off. But to answer your question, I really think it depends on the day. I mean, the type of job that you have, a career that you have, but I think it's something that we do quite often that we may not even recognize that we're doing with by coming in early and leaving late. We're already there 10 hours, 10 plus hours. So why not shift it? I wonder what it would be like if we shifted our workday, to make it more concentrated, like, you know, the,
Hmm.
the 40 hours over 4 days.
And from what I recall from the studies where people were more productive.
Yes.
They which is interesting because sometimes you would think, well, if I'm there for 10 hours, I'm gonna chat at the water station a little longer, I'm gonna get a few more cups of coffee. But people are actually more focused and more productive because they know in that mindset is still I have to have this done by whatever my 4th day is, like Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, depending upon that rotation, but it's you come in, "Okay, I've got all these tasks to do, I have 4 days to do it." So, in our mind, we think that we have less time because we're thinking in days, so we are more focused to get things done. But also, when we come in, we're more refreshed because the
Yes.
problem with the 5-day work week is one of the days that we're off, we have to do everything. We have to clean our house, we have to do laundry, we have to go grocery shopping, we have to do, whatever other things that we do if we have book club on one days or, whatever. And then we have one day left then to do what we want to do. Spend
Yes.
time with family, friends, go out, and we don't even truly have a full day because on Sunday, by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're thinking, Oh, I gotta go
I
back
gotta
to
get
work
ready for the
tomorrow, and
week.
so we're not even fully enjoying, so we don't really have the time off to really kind of relax and recharge, so when we have those 3 days off, then it is we do have a day to do all the stuff we need to do, and then we're thinking, "I still have 2 days," so we still have a day and I'll say a day and 3 quarters where we're just
Yes,
enjoying and whether it's relaxing or being out with friends because we still no matter what, around that 3, 5-ish time frame, we start thinking about, "Okay, back to work tomorrow," and we kinda start to get ready for that. So, yeah, so the places that have tried it, the results have been very beneficial for the company and for the people, and people are less sick. They take less time off, they're less often they're late, and it just seems I don't wanna say that there's no, um negative aspects to it, because obviously for businesses, some challenges then come in with, scheduling and making sure that, that the schedule works well with that type of rotation. But I've always thought it was great, and if we can be more productive in less time, it becomes a win-win for everyone.
yes, and even certain countries, as far as their educational systems, they have abbreviated days for the kids, where they've done research and realized that having like maybe a instead of a 6 hour day on average, they have maybe 4 hours of the day, just like a concentrated day for the kids. And they found that they found that the kids are more receptive to learning. It they're more I don't want to say productive, but they are just there more in tune than the day being drawn out for them. Of course, the other side of that is the parent schedule have to align with that. But I wonder what would that look like if we were to even shorten the day for the kids too. Um, if we were to have something like that, where everybody is kind of like on the schedule, where at some point they're not having these long days of doing it, and because after a while, depending on what the person's doing, they may check out. Like you're like, okay, what
Right.
does this say? On the end is it's just 9:30 and I'm already ready to go home. You know, so I wonder what would the results be if we were to shorten our workday and adopt
Right,
some
because with
things.
our brain
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, with our brain, I mean, that stimulation, 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 question, think, figure out, problem solve, like it's working, 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 and it needs breaks.
Yes,
It
it
needs
does.
time to have rest and breaks, and for some people as adults, I can't do it. There's people that take power naps, and they say they can close
Yes.
their eyes for 20 minutes and feel better, and for me, if I do that and I fall asleep and then I have to wake up in 20 minutes, somebody wakes me or the alarm, I just get angry. 'Cause I must be just at that point of, like, getting into that REM sleep and that deep sleep, and so then or I'm already, like, in it, and so when, the alarm or somebody wakes me, and I'm like, "What?" So I'm either I haven't trained myself because I do believe that we can train our minds and our bodies in to do many things, so I either haven't done it enough to train myself to do it because before, when somebody said, "Just take a nap," I would say, "No." I'm just better to push through and kind of get through that tired slump, go for a walk, just get some movement going because a lot of times just sitting for a long time, we can get tired because otherwise I'm just cranky and angry after that bit of time, so I wonder if perhaps I need to figure out my sleep rhythm so I'm maybe 20 minutes is too long for me. Maybe it's more of a 10 minutes that would be my ideal because then I'm not getting into that deeper sleep and then angry when I wake up.
Hmm, that's a thought. I like to lay down and have my legs up the wall.
Oh,
And so I'll do that and then I plug in and do like I'll do that for 10 minutes with as I listen to like some type of guided meditation on calm. So I'm, kind of like resetting my nervous system by allowing my body to be in that position. And then I'm able to kind of clear my mind with the guided meditation for 10 minutes. And it helps a whole lot finish the rest of my
Mm.
day. So, and I learned that from my yoga instructor. She was like, Kendra, put your legs on the wall and try this. And I say, oh, I wonder what will happen if I plug into something. I use the Calm app. So
Oh,
what
it's a
will
great
happen if
app.
yes, I'd use it so much so I know that there's one lady on there. If I heard her voice in a crowded room, I would definitely be able to pick her out. So, I just
Point.
decided to combine the two of those, and
Mhm.
it definitely helps me get through the rest of the day. Like I'll try to do it around lunchtime. But walking is a good thing because I have a walking pad. I do that too. Um, Especially when the weather doesn't permit for me to go out,
Right.
so but it's good to get up and move from that position regardless of what you decide to do for the most part. Just need that
Right,
break.
because especially if we're office sitting, working,
Yes.
talking, I mean, movement, um, there's so many different things that they say, the desk job is now like the worst job for your health. It's the newest smoking whatever, like
Sitting is the new
many,
smoking.
many
Yes.
things, yeah.
Mhm.
That they say, and it's true because we're just sitting, and a lot of times, and I even catch myself, where I'm kinda getting that
So I do
hunched,
round it.
I'm doing something, and I'm like, "Oh, sit up, straighten up," you know,
Yes.
get that, or even sometimes to just, I try not to it's a catch, like, sometimes I'll have water on my desk, but sometimes I'll have it just a little bit far away, because if I don't have it too close, then I don't drink enough water. But if it's a little bit further away, I'm like, "Oh, I see it," and it makes me even just get up and go walk those few steps, take it, and then once I'm up, then I have the glass, then I walk around a little bit more and just get that even if it's only a minute, and a
Yes.
real minute, not like when we say a minute, that's like 5 seconds, but a true minute of movement and walking around, and on those breaks, depending upon, of course, the job that you have, to definitely be moving and walking around, even if it's just up and down the hallway if you can't get outside because the weather's not very nice out there. But to try always try to, I mean, the ideal they say is 10,000 steps.
Yes.
To try to get that in throughout the day. And so maybe it is on your lunch break to actually first sit and have your lunch away from your desk, away from where you work, and
Yeah.
then to have a bit of time, even if it's only 5, 10, 15 minutes, to just walk around the building, in the building, outside if you can, especially after eating. It helps
Yeah.
us with that
Yeah.
digestion and get the blood flowing and clear the mind.
Mhm. And what could also assist with supporting that, because having community and support can help with attaining that goal and being consistent with it. Maybe even, inviting some of your colleagues to do it too, to have,
Mm,
because I worked in settings where we would eat our lunch and then we go walk, because I worked at the university, we'd walk around the track, or either inside of the building around. But it was like a lunch date, with colleagues, like, okay, everybody well, that group wanted to lose weight or just be active, and we made an agreement to after lunch, let's just go and walk for a few minutes and come back.
mhm.
And go ahead.
And those are all, like, what we've been talking about are ways to have that work-life bit of teeter-totter balance,
Yeah.
integration, even because it doesn't have to as you said, I love how you said integration because not everything is so separate, right? Like,
Yes.
when we can get in those walks, even, yes, we're at work, but it's our lunch hour, and we've eaten, and so then we sat and we ate for 30 minutes and chatted with everybody, but then we take the other 30 minutes and go for a walk. So we're still at work, but we're still integrating some personal life needs, desires to integrate into that instead of just going from sitting at the desk to sitting and
Yes.
eating sitting and talking for the rest of our lunch hour to going back and sitting at our desk again.
Yes. And to add to that, because when it comes to the, I guess, the exercise or just getting in a walk, I've heard, a lot of people say, well, you know what, I do that after work. I gotta wait and I'm sitting all day, I'll do that after work. So, but what happens sometimes is that they're so exhausted, you know, when they get off from work, they're thinking about, well, I just need to get home. And then that's
And then I
another
have to
day.
make dinner,
Or
and
I
I
have
have to
to
bring
make
the kids to
dinner.
soccer practice, and then I
Yes,
have to
and run.
do, and then the laundry,
Yes,
and then
yes. I got a whole laundry list of things that I need to do in my personal life. And so it's just one more day that I just need to, I'll do it tomorrow. And
yeah.
then
And
tomorrow happens and it's a repeat.
right, and even if you do, even for those who do go after work, how about getting in a little more? Because you will feel better
Yes,
working through the afternoon, or you can then after work, you could do a shorter walk if you wanted, if there's other things to do, or you could do the same walk, but this way you're getting in more to help you feel better through the afternoon and even be more energetic for your walk and things that you need to do after work as well. And it's a great way, as you said, to be with colleagues at work, is to have a group or get a few people and walk together.
yes. It also could lend like some type of way to decompress from your day before you engage with your family and your friends. Instead of it being you end your day and you're still reeling from what happened at work, and then you come into to pick your kids up or to see your spouse or significant other, and you haven't de-escalated from what happened. So imagine having that if you can't put in the time to work during the day, but you are able to do it like right after work, you know, you can decompress, and then that allows you to be available for them or to them at that point.
Because that energy from work, it's still with us unless we release that energy, it follows
Yes.
us, and it's amazing the kind of energy because especially if you've had a frustrating day, because it happens to us all. Some people have
Yes.
more frustrating days than non-frustrating days. Um, and whatever happened and you're still frustrated about it, and then you're just like, "Oh, so glad this day is over." And then you get in your car and you need to get gas. And you're like, "Oh, I gotta go pick up the kids. Right, I gotta get of course, I still have to get gas." And then there's a lineup at the gas, and everything that happens just kind of like it feels like that negativity kind of snowballs, and our
Yeah.
our mental state, we get a little bit more irritated. It's sometimes right angry, and then the littlest things we get to be more upset of. So if we take those time to go for walks or just to even if it is, I'm all about the walk and movement, but even if you sit in your car for 5 minutes before you leave and do a meditation, a breathing, just a thing of like, okay, the day is over. I just got to let it go and then just focus on something good, something happy, something meaningful, because we can change our mood and our energy through our thoughts alone,
Oh, definitely. Yes.
right? So when we keep focusing and replaying that conversation, that negative, we're going to continue in that negative state. And then we pick up our kids and we're in a bad mood and we go through drive through for something and they make a mistake, but now wow, we're angry. So we yell at the poor 14-year-old kid who's just trying to do his best at his, first job ever. Or, we let it go and we just think, okay, that's done. Let's focus on happy, the good things, the what I'm looking forward to, planning whatever. And the same type of things could happen. We pick up our kids now, we're in a good mood. We go through drive-through, the kid makes a mistake on the order, we're like, it's whatever, it's not that big of a deal, it's okay. And we continue and we go through more of that positive energy and flow than with the negative by just changing our focus and changing our mind. And again, I think the walking and movement is great, but we can also do it sitting in meditation, but it's good to let those things go to have that more integrated teeter-totter balance of work and life. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know about the Mind Matters weekly newsletter that is full of actionable tips to help you rewire your brain to live the life that you desire. Sign up for it at sallypeterson.com. And when you do, you'll get the top 5 brain hacks for peak performance. Again, you can get it at sallypeterson.com. Now back to the show.
It's good to find out what, if we decide to do meditation, which one works for us, because not all meditation works for everyone. I've had clients that say, well, I can't just sit and be quiet and be still. And I said, well, maybe you need to consider doing something like a guided meditation, but the person kind of introduces you to the meditation and then they
Mhm.
kind of tap in a little bit and then they end it versus someone talking through the whole thing because that may not work for some people. So it's just exploring which type of meditation works for you, you know,
Absolutely.
and utilizing that. And so, yeah, I hear that often. Like, I just can't sit and be still. That's not what
I
meditation is about.
right. I use guided meditation. I'm like,
I do
what
too.
do I want to focus on? Sometimes I just want to be um, focusing on the future. Another time you're like, okay, I need to focus on, maybe I should focus on my health or just to mix things up a little bit to have it different. But for me to just sit by myself with nothing and try to clear my mind. Like things always pop in, even through guided meditations. I still things, and I'm just like, okay, yep, deal with that later. And then I try to
Yes.
like get back in it. And I have, some days are great and the meditation's great and I feel great when I'm done and it lasts for hours. But then those thoughts start to creep back in, those things that the subconscious mind comes back in. I'm like, okay, no, thanks for sharing. I'm not focusing on that now. And then try. And then so sometimes then I'll just do another 5 or 10 minute meditation. And that one could be just terrible. In the fact
Yes.
of my mind is not settling and all the stuff is popping in, and I'm like, this isn't working. And I get
Yes.
frustrated. I'm like, okay, stop. And so they're not always we're like, "Oh, just meditate." Yes, but we also have to remember that it's not always just you sit and it's easy and it's clear, and it takes practice and it
It
takes time.
does. Yes, it
And
does.
like everything, we have good meditations, bad meditation times, good days, bad days. It's part of the process, especially when we're just starting, because our body and brain is thinking, "What? No, we don't have time for this. We've got all these
Yes.
things to
We
do."
got
And
all
then
these things to do. Mhm.
those conversations that go in our head that we're all angry about. Um, and so, yeah, it definitely is. It's practice like anything. We have to
Yeah.
practice walking. We have to practice tying our shoes. We have to practice stopping our mind and clearing our mind.
Yeah. And I say when those thoughts creep in, like, well, that's telling us that our brain is working, to have them, or to look at the thoughts as the clouds coming in and out of the sky. Like, okay, they're just flowing through because they're nothing but thoughts in that moment. And what I've found and heard that the kind of like the longer you stay in that state, they start to kind of reduce or dissipate after a while. But again, it goes back to what you said. It's all about the practice, you know, staying on. So it's all about the practicing of it to get it to the point where it becomes a staple of our everyday life, of our must-haves and needs to function throughout the day.
Right. And the more we can control it over time, I think the more focused and happier and better we become because we're always going to have bad days.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
we're going to have things that are beyond our control that happen that make us angry, that make us sad, that we have to deal with. That's called life. That is how it is, but it is how long we stay in those states, how long we let that happen, and, how long are we angry at somebody from work for something that they said that maybe they didn't even mean it the way that we took it. And we've all had conversations or arguments. It usually happens during an argument because people are intense and their energy is up, and we get into an argument, and then it's kind of over with, and maybe people separate ways. And the next time they chat or see each other and they say, "Well, you said blah, blah, blah." And the other person says, "Well, yeah, but I didn't mean it that way." Right? And so if it's been weeks, we're stewing on what the person said, because a lot of times what we say and how it is interpreted, there can be a disconnect, because I can say something and then, yes, I did not mean it that way. So maybe my communication was not clear, but maybe it was your interpretation. Right. And
Yes.
it works on both ends. And I've always said to people, the unfortunate thing about us as human beings is we have so much technology, and we have made some incredible advances with technology, but our language communication skills really kind of suck. Like, well, with how much we've advanced, right? Like, how many times, and just by that, because everybody's been in a situation where they've said it or it's been said to them or both, and some of us more times than others. "Well, you said this," and the response is, "But I didn't mean it that way." So we've been in many situations where we've said something that we weren't clear on exactly what we meant, and we've also interpreted things that were said, and that interpretation, they may have been clear, but we interpreted differently. And so, we have to look at that, and that's what I mean by our language communication. With all the advances we've had in technology, we're still not great at that.
Yes. Yes. I agree with what you're saying. And also, sometimes what we'll do is if we don't have enough information from the person or the situation, we tend to sometimes fill in the narrative with our own stuff. Oh, so they must have meant this,
Right.
oh, they said this,
Right.
think that this is what they meant. And instead of sometimes, if possible, asking more clarifying, questions so that the person could expound on what it is, so to seek understanding and clarity with that. But we will fill in the gaps with no, because
Mhm.
we're bringing our stuff into it. That from my experience, this has been the case. So this must be, I'm going to apply that to this situation here.
Right, and most of the time, we're gonna be wrong about the
Mm-hmm.
situation, because
The time
we're
we
just,
are.
yeah, it's so how would we stop doing that? Because it's just so natural, right? Like, it's so natural, like,
Yes.
we don't I think a lot of times we don't even realize that we're putting in our own past experiences into the situation now, which may not even relate or have anything to do and be completely wrong. So how do we try to avoid doing that?
By asking more questions if possible, not to interrogate the person, but just to almost like you repeating what they're saying. This is what I heard, you know, could you, is that what you meant? Or did I miss something? Because you're, if possible, repeating to them what they said using their language, right? And then they have the opportunity to tell you otherwise. No, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Or yes, I did say that and I did mean that. Okay, so if that's the case, then where did that come from? Like, how did you
Mhm.
arrive at that? So it's really a conversation, you know? Um, and one strategy to help with communicating, like I'll have clients who say, well, I have a hard time communicating that I have an issue with what this person did, not with the person, but what they did. And I say, okay, well, let's talk about our messages. And oftentimes people
Mm.
think about iMessages meaning the iPhone. I don't have an iPhone. So I was like, oh, there's a the iMessage. I use I use Android. So they're like, yeah, no, not that one. An iMessage allows for you to communicate clearly and more effectively, and it also prevents, if done correctly, the other party from becoming hopefully defensive. So an iMessage,
Mm.
I feel, you fill in the blank what that is. When whatever the offense is, when you did or when you didn't do, and so therefore, then you put in your request. Could you please not do this, or could you do this? So as I feel, and then you say what happened or what didn't happen, and then you put in your request in there. So because if I'm talking to you and I start with Sally, you did such and such and such,
Mhm.
right? What's the natural thing to happen?
I'm gonna get defensive.
You get
I'm gonna
defensive.
be like,
And so,
"Wait a minute."
wait a
Yeah.
minute. So then what will start to happen? You start to either, if you are listening, sometimes we pick out information to arm ourselves with ammunition to come back. Or it could be, you don't listen to me at all. It goes
Right,
like Charlie Brown back in the day, wah, 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 wah. So then the issue is still there, and it's not necessarily, we don't reach any type of agreement, um, or middle ground, because I offended you, by starting out with kind of like being on attack. You did such and such. You're like, well, wait a minute. Where did this come from? I didn't know this. So then you became defensive.
right,
And then here we are back and forth, and nothing is really getting resolved. But
right.
tempers are flaring, and we're frustrated with each other, and then we have a problem. It's
Mm.
exacerbated the issue. But if I start out with saying, well, you know what, Sally, I felt really hurt when, you said, when you told me that you didn't like my outfit, um, what was it about the outfit, or what made you say that? From now on, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all to me. Like, because I'm a bit sensitive about my wardrobe.
Mhm.
And the other part that I found with iMessages is that sometimes when we communicate how we feel about a certain thing or situation, or either when we communicate what the person did or didn't do, sometimes people don't, they're not even aware of it.
Right,
I'm sorry, I didn't know that you felt like that. I didn't mean to do that. Those weren't my intentions.
right. Right, and
So
just,
then there's
especially,
clarity
like, to go
there.
back to the outfit example, like, it's
Yes.
a simple example, but somebody could just say, "Oh, because it's not flattering for you." It's not the color, in my opinion, right? Like, sometimes we say things not intentionally, as you said, to hurt
Yes.
someone's feelings, or sometimes we say things and then people come out, "Did I say that? I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I don't even recall saying that," because we are distracted by something, and so we just make a comment or an answer or a response that we didn't even fully maybe hear the question or the topic, and we gave an answer that we don't even recall giving because we're not paying attention in the conversation.
Yes. And with that, and then to talk about intent, intent and impact. And sometimes we have the best intentions, but then it may not land so positively. It may still have a negative impact on the person.
Right.
And I say to my clients, and I use this myself, looking at the person, like especially when it comes to their significant other, and then they may say something like, he said this, and I'm like, I don't really trust what they're saying. And okay, so let's look at this person. Do you really think that they are set out to harm you in any way?
Mhm.
You know, what does their heart dictate from this being that you're in a relationship? If you believe that this person is set out to harm you, then that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Right.
But for the most part, when you're looking at the person intend on hurting you, even though it may not have had a positive impact on you, but that what were their intentions in that
Mm,
case? Did they really mean to harm you or to hurt your feelings? Mm.
right. And and there's many times in conversations like, I can't control how you feel.
That
Like, there's so
part
many people,
too.
the biggest
Yes,
thing too is, especially
yes,
nowadays, where so many people are, I'll call it overly sensitive to things,
yes,
because
yes,
I'm a bit of old school, like, you make jokes, and jokes, a lot of jokes, no, they're not nice.
yeah,
They're funny, they're jokes, and yes, people are offended, but that's part of the joke factor of it, but people are so sensitive, and just because I get offended, that's me. That's
that's a
my
choice.
choice to
Hmm.
respond to the comment, the situation, the whatever, and if I'm offended by what you say, I have options. I
Yes,
can walk away. I
yes,
can change the channel if it's TV. I can, unsubscribe to your newsletter, if like whatever it was, I have the options to continue to listen or watch or participate, or I have the option to kind of delete that and walk away, turn away. And it's a choice. And I don't really understand why so many people, in part, are so offended over so much stuff right now. But the other part then is just stop listening. Like,
true.
if you really dislike, like, we'll get a little bit, we'll just say the cancel culture. Somebody, so and so should be canceled because they said this. Well, you know what? Just don't listen. Just don't subscribe, don't listen, don't turn it on, don't have conversation about that person. You could just, if conversation comes up to like, yeah, I don't like that person, I don't want to talk about him or her, like that situation. I mean, it's a choice. It doesn't have to be this then ongoing fight and comment, trolling situation. Just be like, whatever. That person's never going to be my friend. I don't agree with what they say, but I can almost guarantee in any open minded person, you will always find some type of common ground. As
Yes,
human
yeah.
beings, we always have some type of common ground. So you may not just like that, but this whole, well, I disagree, so they need to be canceled and I hate them forever because they're a horrible person. It's like, you know what? You could, if you looked, you could find common ground on topics. I have my best friends that we have some things that we do not agree on. Politics is one of them. But we can still have conversations about politics, and it gets each other to think about each other's point of view. It gets us to kind of research and be like, I need to look into that because we have a difference of opinion on the same thing that wasn't said. So that again becomes that interpretation. And then near the end, we'll just be like, okay, well, let's just agree to disagree on this. Or we say, I need to do a little bit more research on that. Um, and we're still best friends. Oh my gosh. Imagine. Pardon the interruption. If you're liking the show so far, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really means a lot to me. It helps grow the show and the channel and to the show.
I know because we're not going to agree with everything and everyone all the time. And I'm glad that you mentioned the cancel culture and I'll talk about a lot in my space with my clients. They'll say things like, I'm afraid, this person doesn't like me. And I'd say, well, let's talk about this cancel culture because we go one day and they're like, oh, I hate this person and they offended me. And then what happens? Time goes on and they're like, oh my gosh, they're the best thing. So it depends on the situation and the circumstances. And I always look at, is that the sum of the person? Did the person just make a mistake during that time? Is that really define who they truly are? And if they are, if you believe that, you're like you said, you have options. I don't
Mhm,
really have to engage in this. I don't have to listen to it. It's just like, if you were somebody's bullying you where they're hitting you, as I say this to the kids. If they're physically hitting you, like, let's look at what your options are. You don't have to
mhm.
stand there and be assaulted. You
Right.
can move away from it. move away from it, go talk to somebody, go tell someone. So it's the same thing. Like, I don't have to engage in this,
Right.
you know?
Especially the online social media stuff. I
Oh
just
my
don't understand
God.
why people engage. Like, why are you looking to have that negativity, negative energy in your life when you can just be like, "Oh, that was a stupid comment. Oh, I don't agree with that." And I don't 100% agree or completely disagree, I don't think with anybody. I can always find some bits of common ground that we'll find mutual. I'm not gonna be friends with them, I'm not gonna hang out with the person, but they are entitled to their they're entitled to their thoughts and beliefs, and here's
Mhm.
my thing behind that though, is my thoughts and beliefs, they are not true. But they are also not false. They are only mine because of how I was raised and the experiences that I've had.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
same with
Your
everybody else.
perception.
So if we have different thoughts and beliefs on things, great. I might have yours if I had your life. You may have
Right.
mine if you had my life. But we didn't, and so we really should just have the respect because we've had different lives. We can think differently and believe differently, and we could meet the same person, and that one person's really nice to me and mean to you. So you don't like
Right.
them because they're mean to you, and I think they're great because they're fabulous to me. Nobody's
Yes.
right, nobody's wrong because our experiences are both correct. And I think that's what people are really missing out on. And if I don't agree with you, great. Well, we don't have to talk about that, or I don't have to agree. I don't have to be in this ongoing battle of trying to convince you that you're wrong
Mhm.
because you're not wrong. Your
Mhm.
opinion and belief is just different. That's it.
Yeah. And for me, I'm always wondering, like, "Oh, I wonder how did that person arrive at that? Like, what
Mhm.
was their experience? What's their story?" I'm huge on wanting to know people's story. How did they get there?
I
Not
think we
that
would
it's
be a
wrong,
lot
just
more we
curious.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, but and I think we would be have a lot more empathy and be a lot more open and a lot more forgiving, just and not forgiving like they've done something wrong, but awareness if we've actually went through a portion of the experiences that somebody else went through, we would be more understanding.
Yes. Yeah. I say everyone has a story.
Oh, yeah.
They get to that point, um, where they are now. They weren't, like, born this way. How did what
I
happened?
think we were almost born a little bit like a blank slate, not completely because
Yeah.
there's some genetics
Yeah.
and cellular things and stuff
Mhm.
like that,
But for
but
the most
human
part,
beings, generally, we were a pretty blank slate, and it was, the school of hard knocks, and that is what has developed us and designed us to who we can be. The good thing that we now know with science and things is we can change that. It's not
yeah,
easy. It's not
yeah,
gonna happen overnight, but if we make the choice to change, we can change and within reason become the person we want to be. And I
and
say
that's the
within reason because I'm never gonna be a professional basketball player. I'm never gonna not that I wanna be. I'm never gonna be a ballerina. I mean,
right.
there's just certain things that just we have to be realistic about. But how we look at
Yes.
the world and how we treat people and what we think and the things that we can do and wanna do, we have complete control over that.
Yes, we do. So I won't
So
see you trying out for the WNBA anytime soon.
no, no, and
Okay.
so for people who do I am like 5'4".
Okay.
So it has never, and I played basketball as a kid in school, and I just was not good. But as a
And I'm
kid, I played it. I liked it. I knew I was
yes.
never going anywhere with it.
And I'm 6 feet tall, so but I got that a whole lot, but basketball wasn't my sport. I played softball.
Okay.
That was my sport, but, oh my goodness, the pressure of, "You should be, you should play
Mhm.
volleyball. You don't play basketball." I did, and I wasn't that great in it, because I only
Right.
did it for probably, like, a season, And
We
but
have to have
softball
passion
was my sport.
for things. We have to enjoy it. Just because
Yes,
we are tall or not tall or the size ideally for whatever, doesn't mean we're gonna like it.
yes. And people will project,
Mm.
what they think you should do with your life based on your
Yeah, and I
size.
think
Yes.
I say this often too, and I'm trying myself, but it's hard. I'm trying to delete the word should from my vocabulary. I don't believe that by saying "you should," it's like I'm telling somebody what to do. How do I
Yes,
know what? I've
yes,
not lived your life. I have not had your experiences. How am I to tell you what? I could say, "You could try. Have you thought of? Are you
yes,
interested in?"
yes,
But then also we're comparing when we're saying to ourselves like, "Oh, I should have this by now. I should be I should have these grades in school. I should have a house by this time. I should be married by this time. I should have this 2.3 kids. I should. And it's like, no,
yeah.
we should not. We have to think of what works for us, where we're at, what we want, and what people want is different. So I'm really trying to delete that word from my vocabulary and not use it. But it's challenging because we use it all the time. And I'm just trying to
We do.
find other words instead of it because I don't think I should be telling anybody what they should or should not be doing.
Yes. And I always ask when I hear that, what are you using as your measurement? How are you measuring that? What are you comparing it against, or who are you comparing it against? Because if we're making that statement, then that speaks to me some type of barometer there. And what is
Mhm.
it?
The thing too about it as well is who are we getting that communication information from? Like, who's saying you should do this or you should do that? Or who am I to say you should do this or that? Because if you're going to listen to me, then I should be living the ideal life that you want. Because if you follow my decisions has gotten me exactly where I'm at. If you don't
Yes.
want to be exactly where I'm at, don't listen to the should, like, if you're asking my opinion on something, "Should I do this or should I do that?" Like, those types of things. Of course, getting information to just gather information is one thing. But again, if we're
Yes.
getting advice from somebody, if you're getting it from your brother or your cousin, because 'cause you're not sure what to do and you're taking their advice, just remember, their advice has gotten them exactly where they are. If you wanna be exactly where they are, take that advice. If you don't want to be and have the life they have, don't take that advice. Take it into consideration. Think it as a
Yes.
a possibility to maybe help you brainstorm, find something else. But if you want to have the lifestyle of somebody, like, you have in mind that you think that they have a great life, that's the kind of information that you wanna lean towards taking, the advice you wanna lean towards, and I still say lean towards because that individual hasn't had your life. They haven't had your experiences, they're not going through the same, so we could kind of try to follow the path, but no, we're never gonna be the same because our life will never be exactly that person's life, and what had worked for them, different timing, different family, different everything, we could do the exact same thing and have a different outcome. Life is not science.
It is not. And the other part is sometimes we're looking at where that person is presently, but we don't know all of what they have endured to get to that point.
Right.
Oh, that person's famous, they have money, they have this, but you don't know. And so, and I'll say, well, that's like comparing apples to oranges. You don't know really all of their story most of the time. And so
Right.
a fair comparison would be to compare yourself. Where was I 6 months ago? Where was I a year ago? And how much
Mhm.
progress in this particular area have I made? Instead of me saying,
Right.
well, Sally has everything together and I just want her life and I should be that. This is where I should. I have my own podcast and everything. But I don't know what you went through to get to there,
Right,
you know?
and you don't know what happens behind closed doors,
Exactly.
right? Like, there is that facade, and I mean, and we look at people, and just as an example of super famous people who a lot of people idolize and think they're famous, they have tons of money, they're good looking, like
Yes.
they've got it, quote, "all," and
Yeah.
they're addicted to drugs and alcohol, and then how many have we known that accidentally or intentionally overdose and pass away? So, in theory, we think they have it all or they have, but there are things behind every person, every scene, everything that we do not want. And so we
Right.
think we want that life, but the reality is we probably really don't. We like maybe the fame, we but with fame, there's negative that comes with that too. Money gives opportunity, but it doesn't always solve problems. Sometimes it brings on new problems, more expensive
Yes.
problems. And so it's not as rosy as things seem. And I think people really need to look at that.
Yes. I do. And it's look at all of it instead of just where they are. Um,
Mhm.
And I wish that some kids they can, I mean, now with social media that people they post so much about, but to be able to see day-to-day stuff. Well, I mean, we saw that with the Kardashians, they see their life. And they're like, oh, it's just so glamorous. But they can't even go to Target,
Yeah.
like do basic stuff anymore because of the fame. And
Yeah.
often you can often
I would
hear
never want
celebrities
that.
talk about that. Like, I just wish I could just go someplace where no one knows me for
Right.
a day or two and just be me, you know?
Mhm. And be left
So
alone.
be left alone. Yeah. Like someone
Just
stopping you for an autograph and some people they wouldn't mind that. But I imagine
Mhm.
after a while,
Yeah.
you know,
It gets old.
it's
Like,
so
it's everything. At first, it's great, if you're traveling the world, at first, it's great, that's part of your job, you're all but, if you're on an airplane every week going somewhere, eventually, it's like airplane, security, hotel,
yes, here we
same, same,
go.
same, it gets old.
Yes, it
Fame,
does.
great, some people love it, and there's some people
Yeah.
that will thrive in it and will forever, but the
Yes.
majority of people eventually would be, "Leave me alone, I just want some privacy, I can't go anywhere," and I think that's part of the reason a, they can afford it, but B, why they have these massive homes because they don't leave unless they're,
Yes.
filming somewhere. They go on vacation to private islands and things because they wanna be left alone. Or one time I was in Italy and we were at a restaurant and my friend that I was with knew the waiter and he's like, "Oh yeah, yesterday Katy Perry was here, but" so we had to like close out the whole restaurant. You have to buy out and pay a ridiculous amount of money to close a restaurant so you can go to a restaurant and eat, so you'll be left alone. Like, it's for me, that's not for me. I mean, I think that's crazy, but for some people but eventually you have to think not being able to go anywhere or do things, I think is a negative that people in theory say, "Oh, I could handle it, it wouldn't be that big of a deal," but then there's reality.
Yes, it is.
So be careful what you wish for.
Yes, that's that part. I remember working at, like I said, I worked at a hotel in DC, one of the major ones, and they taught us we would have a lot of celebrities and people coming in, and we were trained to not necessarily fan out, to treat them as a guest who happened to be a celebrity. Like they got the same level of it was like, oh my gosh, there's so like you couldn't do that. It was because they were coming to stay. They wanted, their privacy and to
Mhm.
be treated as like most of them as a regular guest. And I realized I'm like, wow, that humanized them coming
Mm.
through to check in and like, wow, like, oh, they want extra pillows, like
Yeah.
we were able to see that, or
Well,
they, oh, they do this, like they're
because
human, and it's like
they're
they
people.
just
Yeah,
they're
they're
people,
just
right?
people too.
And I
Like,
appreciate
I
that
don't
experience.
yeah, and I don't get starstruck. I've met a few celebrities and things, but to me, it is, somebody who's really good at their job. That's what they are. An actor
Yes,
who's
yes,
really good at their job, but you know what? There's other people that are really good at their job too, that make tons of money that we don't know. They're the head CEOs,
hmm,
CFOs of big corporations around the world, and that's fine. They're good at their job, but I don't. I don't get starstruck because I also know, like, I wouldn't want that life. I would want to check in and be left alone, go to a restaurant and not be surrounded by people taking my
Mhm,
picture, like,
mhm,
100 times while I'm eating and just those things. So I'm just sometimes I'm like, "Yeah, great, you're fabulous at what you do. I wouldn't want your life, so, you know, glad you chose it. It's entertainment for me, but that's about it."
mhm.
So,
So I don't really fan out anyone as, I don't because of having that. It's like, "Oh, there's so and so." No, I'm not. And they're like, "Don't you want that autograph?" No, just let them be.
yeah.
I acknowledge that they're there, that's cool, but no, just let
Mm,
them be.
exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Well, Kendra, I want to thank you very much for your time today. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Well, they could find me on Instagram at Kendra J Coaching. My website is thrivewithkendra.com. And I also have a website, kendrajeffers.com. Okay.
Perfect. Great. And I'll make sure that we have links to that in the show notes to make it even easier for people to connect. So, again, thank you very much for your time
Thank you
today.
so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation.